Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving deep into a really fascinating research compound called BPC-157. So, get this. What if there was a compound derived from your own stomach acid that some early research suggests could help repair things like tendons? Sounds a little like sci-fi, right? Well, that's the big question behind BPC-157. So let's break down what this stuff actually is. And to really get it, we've got to go right to the source. And I mean literally, inside the human digestive system. The whole story of BPC-157, it all starts with a protective protein found right there in our stomachs. So BPC-157 stands for Body Protection Compound 157. And what it is really is a lab-made peptide. Think of it like a short string of 15 amino acids. But here's the cool part. It's designed to be a copy of a piece of a protective protein that's already in our stomach juice. So scientists basically looked at what nature was doing, took that idea, and are now recreating it in a lab so they can study it up close. Okay, so we've got the basic idea down. Now let's get a little more specific and look at the hard science. You know, how researchers actually identify this compound and make sure they're all talking about the same thing. Now, this table might look a bit intense, but don't worry. You can basically think of it as the compound's unique fingerprint. You've got the molecular formula, its weight, its ID number, and a huge public database. This is how scientists make sure that the BPC-157 they're studying in one lab is the exact same molecule as the one being studied somewhere else. It's kind of like the universal language of chemistry. All right, and this is where things get really interesting. We're about to jump into what the research is actually suggesting. But, and I need you to hear this loud and clear, this is absolutely critical. Everything we're about to talk about comes from preclinical studies. We're talking lab work and animal models. This is not about humans. So the big word here is regeneration. A huge part of the research is looking at how BPC-157 might affect tissues that are just famously slow to heal. You know, things like tendons and ligaments that don't get a lot of blood flow. The lab studies are exploring whether it can maybe boost the cells that make collagen, those are called fibroblasts, and maybe even speed up the whole wound closure process. And that leads us to a really key idea here, angiogenesis. It's a fancy word, but it just means the creation of new blood vessels. And that's a major focus for BPC-157 research. The idea they're testing is whether it can actually encourage this process, almost like creating little vascular bypasses to help get fresh blood and all the healing stuff that comes with it right to the site of an injury. But you know, it's not all just about muscles and tendons. Remember where it comes from, right? Gastric juice. So it's probably no surprise that scientists are also super interested in what it might do for the gut. They're looking at it in lab models of things like ulcers and IBS-like issues. The source material also talks about research into its antioxidant effects, and even if it could help reduce damage from common drugs like NSAIDs, again, all in a lab setting.